Alright neighbours, welcome back to the channel, and the first video in 6 months. Hopefully things are going to be a little bit more consistent from now on. For the first video back, we're going to take a look at painting a miniature entirely in one colour, with only black and white to alter the shade. This is something I have wanted to try for a while now, and entered a competition on Instagram as an opportunity to give it a shot. I was given the colour blue and naturally picked an ultramarine as my mini. So we started off with an all over spray of Citadel's Macragge blue, followed by a zenithal spray from about 45 degrees with a lightened shade of the same Macragge. I wasn't overly happy with the shadows that I got from this, so I hit the mini with a further spray of Macragge blue, but this time from below. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of the overhead footage of this step, but I wanted to play a little bit with oils since I've not used them all that often. So I used Windsor & Newton's Phtalo blue with some black and white to create a nice gradient on my palette. I added the lightest shades to the highlight spots created from the zenithal, and the darkest shades to the shadows. Then used a clean brush to softly blend all the shades together to get a sweet gradient just like the pros. You'll notice that I go back and forward adding highlights and shades over and over again to get the desired result. I also make sure to use a clean brush to blend, making sure that this brush never touches the mineral spirits used for cleaning and only ever gets wiped on a paper towel beside me. After having my fun with the oils, I decided to have a stab at non-metallic metal for the sword and the trimmings. For this I covered all the metallic sections with Vallejo grey blue, then sketched in where I want my highlights to go with a mixture of grey, blue and white. Bear in mind that this is only the 5th time I've tried non-metallic metal, so it's a bit shit, and the highlights are probably in the wrong place. I used the same mix to sketch in the highlights on all the little trim pieces. On a wee side note, I bought these fancy new specs on Amazon. They may make me look a wee bit like a nutbag, but they're really a game changer for hitting all the tiny details, and I strongly advise you get some. I also decided at this point to paint the eye lenses with the same blue-white mix. Now this is the first time I have ever managed to not bugger it up on the first attempt, so I feel like I deserve a little prize. Here he is in all his glory with the highlights sketched in. I'm pretty chuffed with how the oils turned out. Now it's time for the bit that I am shit at. I glazed a 50-50 mix of the original base tone and white-blue mix onto the joint, if that's the right word. I had to make sure to always brush towards the scene, leaving the most paint deposited at that point. I did this about 3 or 4 times before I moved on to glazing a mix of Vallejo grey blue with some black into the shadows. Again, making sure to always leave the most paint where I actually want it to be. The last step of the glazing was to add more white to my highlight colour, a lot more white, and glaze into the very centre or the tip of each highlight area. I had to go back and forward between the glazes repeatedly to try and get as smooth a result as I could. It wasn't as smooth as I liked, but from a distance it's passable. Again, I'm new to the non-metallic metal game, but I'll get there eventually. I like to add little sketchy, scratchy reflections to my swords. Now, it's not the most realistic, but I quite like the effect it gives you. And here we are with all the glazing done. Sexy, eh? The final step of the non-metallic metal was to edge highlight the blade, something I am not very steady at. At this point, I realised that I'd completely forgot about the gun, so I drilled out the barrel and hit it with a coat of the mid-tone from a non-metallic metal attempt. And now it's time for one of the main reasons I hate Space Marines. Edge highlighting the whole stupid thing. I went for more of a stippled, scratchy edge highlight to look a bit more like chipping. These guys have way too many edges. For the edges, I used a mix of Macragge blue with a crap load of white. After the crap bit, I moved around the mini, adding little scratches with the edge colour to give a battle damaged, scratched effect. Handsome chap. To make the scratches stand out more, I added some of the Vallejo grey blue with black to the underside of each scratch, which gives it a little bit more depth and generally makes it look better. I added a rough sketchy highlight to the gun and booped away my mistakes. With the Marine done, it was basing time. I created a really rough wet blend of Macragge blue and a lightened shade of Macragge to simulate water getting deeper. I stuck the mini on the base along with a couple of small rocks. And then I went to town with some Vallejo water effects, trying to splash it up around the feet and rocks. Finally, I painted the base rim with Macragge blue, and boom, here he is. I'm quite happy with how he turned out. There's some things that could have been better, like the non-metallic metal, but like I said, I'll get there. If you enjoyed the video, then do the usual thing, liking, commenting, subscribing. Feel free to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll catch you in the next one.